sorry for the inconvenience. And we in this room here and changed rooms from yesterday, so we had to come and reset the room up, so we're getting kind of a late start because of the inconvenience of the change, all right? Everybody still with us?
Yeah.
The topic to be for you today, informational, strong, and not too long. All right? Unless you say keep going. You say keep going. I asked the elders in the house to give me permission to start this. Do I have permission?
Mm-hmm.
For this weekend, starting Thursday, we've been asking the question, who were you before 1492? Here, this is so-called pre-Columbus Day weekend, Columbus Day celebration. We're going to be off work and children out of school, and some of y'all will be wearing Columbus hats. I hope not. Playing with sailboats in the tub. But we still have to answer the most important question. Who are you, or who were you before 1492? Now, we call ourselves African Americans, Latinos, Spanish, what's some of them other titles they give you? Whites, and all of these different titles. But who are you? Were you from Africa? Were you from the Americas already? Because there were black people in the Americas during the time they were in Africa. So tonight, what I want to do before we get into this conference is I want to stimulate your brain for a minute. A little brain food. We started this conference off with these images. And these images are going to bring light to some of the stuff that we're talking about. We're going to start out with who were you before 1492? This is some ancient maps that I found. I found these maps in some books that's outdated. I use the outdated books because they are the ones that hid the information. As we moved into the 1980s, they started outlawing outdated books so that you couldn't get them no more. But I started finding these books in garbage cans and people throwing them away, and I started doing that. This is what they said the kingdoms look like. When I say kingdoms, I don't mean little villages and squares and towns. I mean kingdoms. Those that had major civilizations at that time. This is what they said for the major civilizations. The old kingdom of Egypt, the Sumerian kingdom. You see the Canaanites. Some of y'all recognize the Canaanites from the Bible. These are real tribes that existed, and they had civilization according to these maps. Now, somebody wrote history. Was it us that wrote the history, or was it the invaders and the conquerors? This is some things to think about. Let's go to the next one. Here it is, showing the 500 BC, and how the kingdoms began to spread. Now, no longer is this the kingdom of Canaanites, but this is the Persian Empire now. And now what you call the first civilization of Egypt is now called the kingdom of Kush, the whole landmass. You see, at one time, even the Africans never called themselves Africans. They said they was Igbo. They said they was Nigerian. They was different. They were these different tribes. The Europeans, Afrikanos, and many others came and gave those terminologies Africa. When ancient ones called it Akimula, and other names such as that. So this is some things we got to look at. Go to the next one. I want to run through these images right here. Here's 1100 to 1400. What was happening in 1100 in Africa? Anybody know? Yeah. Anybody? What was going on? I heard it. The Crusades. The Crusades were going on in the kingdom of Jerusalem, up at the top part of the year, and at the same time, the so-called Mongols, or you call the Chinese, the first early Chinese, were moving into a major civilization, and they were coming into Africa, and they were also traveling to the Americas at this time. But when the Crusades was going on, this crusade is the same crusade you see in the book right now. It was in Palestine and countries like that. It's the Christians with the Jews against the Muslims. And this is when it first started in 1100. But the world has started to repopulate itself, and you start seeing the Incas and different civilizations. This is according to their map. They started to pop up in these parts of South America and what you call Europe started giving civilization. Everybody want to tell you that the European was in Africa during the time of so-called Christ. But according to their science, he didn't come until the 1100s. He came along when the Arabs came. Something to think about. Let's go to the next one. This is the world in 1700. After the first Nicene Council, this is after the colonialization of the planet itself. By 1700, they had begun to spread all over the planet. You had people that was calling the planet round, and some saying it was square, but the Africans, or the so-called indigenous of the planet, they had already circled the planet thousands of times, and they knew you could go completely around it. But the European believed that you could go to the side of it and fall off. He didn't have star charts. He didn't have the mapping of the stars. He didn't have any of that. Go to the next one. Don't mind the children. The children is all right. I ain't got no problem. This is the eugenics study. This was in a school book.